Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy MC Fire.
And Ice Cube.
Hey, guys, we're coming at you guys today a little different. From we know that there's a political climate out here, and this is not like one of our normal videos. We normally don't get into like politics. We like to stay on the money side of the house, but we know a lot of people, they probably see what's going on and they wonder how it might affect their finances. So we're gonna kind of go over what certain policies are being proposed, right? And what that means. Not necessarily telling you necessarily what candidate we think is a better candidate, just objectively how we think the chips fall if there is a...
Sorry, there was a big pigeon. There's a pigeon?
It is definitely a seagull. There was a giant seagull that flapped up on our car hood, right? We had a moment. We might edit that. We might keep it. We don't know. All right. So back to what we were talking about. While we were fighting for our lives, right? Essentially, both candidates are running. Some of them, some things on social policies, some things on financial policies, right? And both of them kind of have a financial agenda. And we want to break down what we believe that the effects would have on the economy, and then what we really will be doing, because it's more of a vlog. We would say we're educating you on kind of what we're doing, so that's how I look at it. Excuse me.
Whoa.
I know, right? Crazy. It's like I'm a human out here in these streets, right? So I'm going to propose one policy that both of them have, and then we'll let Q tell us what she thinks, and then I'll go about what I think about the policy.
All
right. We'll do, let's say, for the financial policy, Kamala Harris wants to give a $25,000 down payment kind of assistance for new time home buyers. And I don't think Trump has something along those lines as regards to first time home buyers. But what do you think about Kamala's proposed $25,000 for new home buyers? What do you think?
So it'll be good with getting people into homes. However, people keeping those homes or paying off those homes, that's where it kind of gets a little bit dicey. And I don't know, it's like, where are you getting that money from? Like, a lot of people are saying that, like, where's that money gonna come from for you to give home buyers this $25,000 for the down payment?
That is a good question.
So we won't be doing anything with that, I don't think.
Yeah,
we've been investing into the real estate stocks, the REITs. So that's what we get our our what's it, dividends.
Yeah, we get participation in the real estate market with REITs. So fundamentally, like you were saying, I kind of want to parrot that a little bit, is if someone's looking to buy a home, and that might be something they're looking to do, if they can financially afford to do so, like they've thought it out and they're prepared,
and they have a plan of like, oh yeah, in 3 years for sure we're paying this off. We're not gonna pay like twice the amount of what the house is even worth.
That's exactly right. Like, people will stretch out a 30-year mortgage, and they'll get you certain interest rates to give you certain refinance and kind of extend out your loan, or raise a higher interest rate but fewer payments, kind of thing. I would say definitely redefine print, right? I would definitely stay away from adjustable rate mortgages unless you absolutely know that you can pay it off in a very short period of time. And again, just because you're getting assistance for the house and the down payment, you're still going to be liable for the remainder of the loan. Now, even taking that into consideration, right? If a home, like the average out here is like anywhere from 500,000 to like 800,000 on the high end, right? That's like the median.
I feel like it's up into the like 900,000s, honestly.
Yeah, like, no, I got the data. It's up there, right? I was just saying, like, if you were kind of fishing at the bottom of the barrel, it's like 849 from the last thing that I looked at, median homes compared to median income. I looked at that chart.
So not like people that's trying to get like more house than they can bite off my
bite off. Yeah.
yeah.
And
Okay.
up here, we live in, I don't know if you guys know, but we live in the Pacific Northwest up here in Seattle. And so the medium housing is up in the $850,000 range, right? I was just saying, like, other places too that
Oh, gotcha.
people don't live necessarily here. Because like if you live in LA, yeah, it's like it's easily like 900,000 is the median home prices. But for most of the major cities that have over 1 million people, it's not that high. It's not that high. But I was saying essentially, right? We want you guys to set yourself up financially. Remember, the house that you live in is still a liability. So keep that in mind.
What about those people that say that my house is a asset? What are you talking about? When I went to go buy my house, they told me that this is an asset. So how is it a liability?
How is it a liability? That's a good question, actually. So I'm glad you actually asked that. So one of the kickers that I believe personally, you have to make a standard, right? If this is going to be your standard, you're going to call your house an asset. By what's the qualification that you call anything an asset? Well, I'm a very simple man, and I like how Robert Kiyosaki put it. Assets put money into your pocket. Put money into your pocket. Keyword pocket. Liabilities take money out of your pocket. So yes, your house is growing in value, right? And you can HELOC it, right? But you owe that money back. Or you get capital gains on the house, but you don't get that until you sell it. Now, if you're getting, let's say, rent on the property, then yeah, absolutely, it's definitely an asset. Why? Because it's putting money in your pocket. That's money that you can use and sell. So I'm not necessarily looking for a house myself that I'm living in. I'm seeing it more as an expense. I got maintenance costs, I got taxes, insurance, and mortgage.
I love that you put that in there because a lot of the videos that we've been seeing, the people that are regretting buying their homes, mostly like single women are regretting buying their homes. They're saying like, man, I didn't know that I had to come out of pocket this much. I didn't know I had to pay for all the like maintenance costs. Like such and such went down, and they just quoted me thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And they're like, I just put all this money into my house. People literally moved in, and they're like not even 2 months into like living in the house, and they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go back to renting.
Buyer's remorse kicks in kind of hard. And I like the way I forget who put it. They were like, when you buy a home, your mortgage is the lowest amount you're gonna pay. When you rent, that is the highest amount you're gonna pay. So it's just one of those things that you have to be cognizant. Just because someone's dangling $25,000 in front of your face, yes, it is $25,000.
Sounds good.
Sounds good, but be mindful. Okay, I think we exhausted that.
Sorry.
One. Yeah, I love it, and we'll see about I don't know. We'll give you guys some more goodies. All right. So the next thing is the tax cuts, the tax breaks. So Trump, when he was in office, he put in place a lot of tax breaks that expire at the end of 2025, and that's kind of on the table. How do you think that if somebody was going to that's Trump's proposed plan. I think he cut taxes for lower and middle Americans like 3%, and I think the rich got a slightly higher tax cut than the average worker. So that's his proposed tax plan. On the flip side, Kamala Harris is saying she also would like to discuss maintaining those tax cuts, but she hasn't necessarily put in a new plan for tax cuts on the rich. If anything, she wants to increase tax potentially on unrealized gains for those individuals who have over 100,000 or $100 million in assets. Yeah, I know, right? $100 million in assets is her proposed plan. That's, like the 1% of the 1%, right? 1% of Americans. So what do you think? I'll let you go first.
Well, based off the conversations we've been having about this, I feel like when the policies that we have now have been really good for businesses and stuff, for taxes. However, switching over to Kamala's one, or she's trying to keep it instated, correct?
Well,
With a little bit
she's willing to kind of let the House and the Senate kind of decide if they want to keep those tax cuts. She's willing to discuss maintaining those tax cuts. Also, one thing I forgot to mention is Donald Trump wants no tax on proverbial tips. If you're a tip worker, doesn't want to tax that, and Kamala parrots that as well, and says, "Hey, yeah, I like that." So that's at least one thing that they actually agree on: no tax on tips. Trump obviously wants to extend his tax cuts, and Kamala wants to increase taxes, but only on people that have over 100 million in unrealized gains. So, what are unrealized gains?
It's like the money that you haven't brought in yet. Like, you haven't even made that money, but they can say, "Oh, you're looking to make this amount of money, so we can tax you." Right?
Yeah, you nailed it. So, just like anything with capital gains, right? If I buy a stock and it grows, right? I haven't sold that stock, or if I buy a house and it grows in value, I haven't sold that house. If it's over 100 million in value, right? Then I haven't actually brought in the gain from selling that house. So a lot of people's argument is, well, how do I look to pay you on the tax on it if I haven't actually realized that gain? The money's not in my pocket. What do you think?
I don't like that. I don't like it at all, because who's to say you can trickle that down to the middle class and the lower class? I'm saying, like, because isn't that how things always work? It starts at the top. Oh, we're gonna do this and have the poor. Sorry, we're gonna have the rich pay such and such amount of money in taxes, and like with the income tax, that was supposed to have been for the rich. That wasn't supposed to have been for just
the average Joe,
the average person.
Or it started out at the extreme top and worked its way down. Yeah, you're right.
That's one. And so, like, who's to say that this won't do the same thing of taxing unrealized gains? I don't like the way it sounds. Well, go back. So I like it just because that means that more assets will be on the table for grabs. So that's a good thing. We don't have $100 million.
We don't have $100 million.
So, but because people have to come off those assets, that'll be good, because it'll give us a chance to get in on some really good assets,
Nice. So and I like the dynamic that you played out there. If you are an individual that has a lot of assets, let's say in the stock market, and Kamala Harris's plan comes to fruition, well, that means potentially you would have to pay taxes on the stocks. Really, that's what they're targeting. They're targeting people that have large holdings in stocks, and they never have to really sell them, but they gain dividends from those that they do have to pay taxes on. But what they'll do, and this is the reason why they want to attack it, is if I have 100 million in stock assets, I can take a loan out against those assets, using those assets as collateral, and you don't pay taxes on a loan. So that's their way of circumventing taxes. They have stock assets, right? 100 million. They take a loan out, and then they go buy more assets with that loan, using their stocks as a collateral, but they don't have to pay taxes on that money. So
sneaky.
I know, right? Hey, you gotta know what you know, right? So what's beautiful about that is Kamala Harris is attacking that policy, right? She's attacking that. She's like, listen, you're defrauding America from taxes, right? Because it's kind of a loophole. Me as an opportunist see that as well. That otherwise would mean that people that have $100,000 in assets, like you were saying, would be pressured to sell to get under that burden, right? Of those taxes, which puts maybe some assets that were otherwise like accessible to you, right? on the market. And we're not just talking about stocks here. This could be a real estate portfolio. This could be a special art collection, right? We don't know to what extent, how broad that tax extends to, and what sectors, but we do understand the implications. And you got to think about it like this. If for generations and generations, your family had a large amount of assets that you never had to sell, and you just keep passing those assets down and getting the passive revenue, the dividends, and you just keep buying more assets. Well, how do we compete if those assets are locked and boxed in your, essentially your lineage?
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, you would be forced to alleviate those. So you'd see probably a dip in almost all sectors, but for those sectors that are, just because they're selling, they're being forced to get under that 100 million. That could be an amazing buying opportunity for this generation who has been constantly saying, hey, we're getting priced out of housing market, we're getting priced out of the stock market. Nvidia's at like $500 per share. Broadcom is up there, REITs are up there, assets are up there. So how can I actually get in this market? I can't afford to. Well, that could put pressure on people. At the Q's point, that could trickle down too. So the target that they're trying to hit might start at 100 million, but then it might go to 20 million. Then it could go to 5 million. Then it can go to individuals with 1 million. Then it starts looking like, well, if we can tax at 1 million, there's a lot of millionaires out there. Let's, tax people that have 500,000. And then you start to see where, the snowball rolls. So I like that you brought that out. No tax on tips. I do like that. They were talking also potentially a no income tax. I believe that no tax on tips makes sense, but what about no tax on commissions, right? That's where you get into a like commission-based economy, right? Is let's say, for example, I make a sale on a house and I get like a 2% commission on the house, on a very large house. Well, I have to pay taxes on that as income. But if it's considered like a tip, wink, wink, right? Then will I not have to pay taxes on it? It's just one of those things that, I could see potentially people wiggling in the sales industry. Well, this isn't really a commission, this is a tip to avoid taxes. So no tax on tips makes sense for the layman, but I believe it also makes sense for the salesman as well, or the server and the salesman. So those policies on taxes we think are pretty cool, right? And thank you for that breakdown. That was actually really good, by the way. So they now also want to do a child tax credit. Both of them want to do a child tax credit. I believe Donald Trump wants to do a flat, like $5,000 tax credit within like the first 3 years. Now we got to get educated on a couple. What is a tax credit?
For a kid.
Yeah, so for little people, right? If you decide to have a new sprawling family and you got a little person, essentially they will alleviate some of your burden from taxes by giving you, well, Trump wants to do $5,000 flat, and Kamala wants to start with $3,000 and then give you later down the line 1,000 and then 1,000. So I think it's about the same, but Trump wants to give it to you all up front, and Kamala wants to give it to you a little up front and then a little bit more later.
So is that like an attempt to increase the birth rate?
Well, that's what we're kind of breaking out. So, like, do you believe that has that potential? Sure. I mean, I believe, like, hey, if $5,000 is what you're looking at your cost or your balance sheet, and you're like, hey, we do the numbers for the first 3 years, what's a newborn cost, right? And if $5,000 is really a strain on you for diapers, formula, daycare, really childcare is what we're talking about, then maybe that is not enough for you to say, well, hey, it doesn't offset what I needed to offset.
Okay.
But is it better than nothing? Well, absolutely. But in a world where in a world that, when we play the cash flow game, for example, right? Even for an engineer, their child costs are like $350, right? Something high.
Mm-hmm.
$5,000 can be really, really, really good. In a world where, let's say, you're trying to send your kid to private school, yeah, that might be. It's not intended to be for their whole natural life. Essentially, it's really for the nurturing, the first 3 to first
couple years.
5 years. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's kind of to help you with that new adjustment, because you just made a new family. Like you can be a little flexible. It's stressful. It's real. Like you have little people in your life, and work's going to be adjusted. You got to schedule new habits. You're not going to be firing on all cylinders, right? It's an experience, and if they're giving you money for that experience, if that's what you're looking to do, cool, do it.
All right.
Sweet. I guess really the next thing that we can pivot from the economy, but it affects the economy, is immigration. So, under Kamala and Biden, obviously, there's been a shift in immigration. Large. They're saying the estimated numbers is 21 to 26 million in the time that they've been in office, and Trump wants to reverse that, strengthen our ports of entry as well as our southern border, and if certain individuals don't meet the immigration requirements, they look like they'd be looking to kind of expedite them out of the country, right? Efficiently.
Okay.
So, what do you think? How do you think that affects us financially, and what's at play?
I don't know. That one's a bit touchy because I know people come into this country because it's an immigration country. Like,
Yeah.
we hold that title, and people are like escaping things that are happening in their country.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a great opportunity for people to have an opportunity,
Yeah.
I don't know, because then it's like, well, we're paying taxes, and then those taxes go towards immigrants. So how is it benefiting us for you to bring more people in? But I do see the angle where they're trying to bring more people in because they'll increase the birth rate of our country.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's America's just looking at it maybe from like a benefit. How's it gonna benefit me in the next 10 years? Whereas like the citizens here are like, well, how's it gonna benefit me now? Like, why am I? We're very. We want to see. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, these need to add up perfectly. Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Yeah, like I think it's pretty sweet. Like, if you're looking at it from a perspective of, well, from just a purely a birth rate perspective, right? Mm-hmm. Our natural birth rate is, I think, 1.6, right? As the U.S. With immigration, it bumps it up to like a 2.2, right? Those aren't my figures. Those are figures from a book called The Accidental Superpower, right? We have a decent immigration policy that kind of offsets our low birth rate, right? And so from that perspective, I think, well, if you're just looking at it from the numbers, I think immigration is not such a bad thing. Also, I look at it from the perspective of liabilities and unfunded liabilities. We have like something in the $30+ trillion in funded liabilities, but nobody's talking about the $112 trillion in unfunded liabilities, which when you do that like per American, it's insane. Like what that would necessarily cost and put you on the hook for via taxes. So you're essentially telling myself and my posterity, right? You're telling them that you're going to have to fit the bill for these liabilities of your fathers and your father's fathers, which I'm not sure if that's fair. So you have to me, you have three options, right? You have to either default on the debt or alleviate the debt somehow, right? You either default on it, meaning I can't pay it, right? Or you say, well, you don't have to pay it. That's one thing that can happen. Number two is, well, naturally our taxes are going to go up. If we have fewer people, the tax per person would have to increase. Or you increase the number of people to spread the tax burden. So those are the only three things. And most people don't like having more taxes. And we don't want to default. And we don't want to, we're not sure if the person holding our debt is just going to alleviate, $3 trillion, $30 trillion in debt. You don't know who's at the other end of that equation. So my natural course is, well, if you're going to have to spread the taxes, if an immigrant decides to come into the country, then there should be paths to, if you're going to bring them in, right, it should be paths to citizenship. Because you're essentially giving American taxpayer dollars to someone who doesn't necessarily have to stay if they don't want to. So if the ones who want to stay and repay our generosity the correct way, I think they should do that. I think that's actually a decent policy to alleviate some of the tax burden. So those are the three ways that I see it. Also, the birth rate, that's important.
Yeah.
So as regards to immigration, I think we've pretty much exhausted that and got a lot of good insight, Q. Yeah, it's really good stuff. I guess the last, but certainly not least, is the energy policy, right? Some would say that Donald Trump wants to drill baby drill. He said that a few times.
Drill baby drill.
And what does that mean for those who don't know? The United States actually is very rich in natural resources, in regards to oil, natural gas, stuff like that. And so because of that, he would want to tap into those natural resources, increase the supply of the natural resources, and then by doing that, drive abundance in energy, driving a lot of energy costs down, and then making production more efficient. Okay. The Green New Deal is what's being proposed primarily by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, as a looking towards the future of energy, right? Looking at alternative forms, whether they be solar, hydro, wind, those forms of energy, and take our reliance off fossil fuels out of the equation. Okay. So what do you think, Jude? Do you think you lean more towards the Green New Deal, or do you lean more towards drill baby drill?
Okay. So for this one,
yeah, keep in mind we are driving a hybrid.
I know. So I like the policy of going more green.
Okay.
However, I think about things on a cost basis, because it's like, okay, well, how much would that cost us to get that started?
Yeah.
Because that sounds like it's going to be expensive, know?
Yeah.
But I feel like down the line, maybe 10, 15 years, we'll be able to see the green light after, or the light at the end of the tunnel from doing that. Of course, we're gonna have to put in a lot of money and time to get that. Maybe 5 years for it to be up, and I don't even know if she's gonna. She got 4 years, so.
It's a lot of investment. We don't know if it's gonna play out, right? It's part of your legacy, maybe, if it works out.
Unless she come up with millions overnight, I don't know. Anyways, moving towards Trump's, because he wants to drill baby drill.
Yeah.
Where I think that will put us, or how that will affect our economy.
Mm-hmm.
You said we're rich in natural resources.
Like as a nation, yeah, we
Mm.
have a lot of we do fracking. I think that was on the table. Like first, Kamala was like, I want to ban fracking. Then she's okay with it. Fracking, for those who don't know, fracking is the process by which we extract oil literally at like hardened rock. So it puts a lot of carbons out, but essentially you can get oil from it, like which you otherwise couldn't have accessed it. It's not easy to access. Let's put it like that.
Mm.
Easy to access oil. You don't have to put a lot of energy into extracting it. All you have to do is pull it out of the ground, refine it, make it clean, make it where you can put it in your gas tank and you're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a lot of people want, or those are the regions where a lot of people want to extract the oil from because it's cheaper to refine it. Whereas if you got shale and you have to frack it, right? It's essentially pulling oil out of rock.
Mm.
That makes sense?
But drilling in the ground, who's to say we run out of that resource?
So who knows? They still are finding oil, right? It's not like it's all tapped out. And with shale, a lot of the world's, we thought we were going to run out like probably a decade ago of that easily refinable resource. But because we have shale, that actually extends the life because there's a lot more oil in shale than in just easily accessible oil.
I don't know. You got me here. I like the whole going efficient route,
Mm-hmm.
but we've been doing oil for centuries. Like,
Yeah.
so I mean, if it's not broken, why fix it?
I like that. Yeah. Like the way, yeah, it's like, hey, they ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. Once we start, like, I don't know, you could put policies in place to start working on like the going efficient in case we do run out. But why switch a thing wholeheartedly if we're working just fine, you know?
Yeah. So on that, like I think we're kind of in the middle too. Like I'm very much in the middle. I would say like, I wouldn't want to make people go one way or the other. Like you got to go all the way electric or you got to go all the way fossil fuel.
Mm-hmm.
I would say for us the way of the future is hybrids, right? Being in the middle, being able to have multiple accesses to.
Oh, about to die.
Oh no, not the bat. Oh wait, you can just plug it in. Here. Plug that bad boy in. Sheesh. The unlimited power. This is what I'm talking about. Love it. Yeah, there we go. Oh, I love it. All right, so if we're in the middle, right? Like we drive a hybrid, right? We're in one right now.
Yep.
Got a Chevy Volt, right? It essentially has gas and it has it can plug in capacity, right? And the battery, as battery technology gets better, you can go farther and farther on a charge. So I am a proponent of energy. I think also your ability to keep your car. I think not saying anybody's name, but there is certain companies out there that allow you to swap your battery. So essentially, like if you really like a chassis, right? Chassis being like the car and how like the interior, if you really like that, that's your favorite, you can essentially extend the life of that car very far, and really get the maximum out of your car and just buy the battery, right? Essentially buying its engine. But on the same token,
sorry,
right? On the same token, on the same token, if you're gonna make this new deal viable, there needs to be like charging stations available so that people aren't waiting like 30 minutes. And I wouldn't make people switch because, like, let's say for a truck driver, if a truck driver has to switch from a gas vehicle to an EV truck, not like a pickup truck, like a 18-wheeler, he essentially he goes from putting gas in his car that may take 15 minutes, right, at max, to charging up his massive battery, maybe hours to charge this massive battery, and then on his single on his single charge, he goes a third of the distance that he did if he had gas. Like he can make his whole trip on gas or diesel, where he has to charge 3 times on electric. That's with the current technology. Not saying that it's not going to improve, it's not going to get better, but no, I truly believe that don't force everyone to do it. And then the other aspect of it too is, even with you having a hybrid, they still charge you for what, like in tax, right? Like when you go to renew your, it's something crap.
I easily pay like around $4.90.
Yeah.
To get my registration.
Yeah.
To get my registration renewed each year. So, putting that into perspective, like, I think if they're trying to push everybody to get EVs, to take that off, because it's discouraging people from getting electric vehicles or even hybrids. Because my coworker, she has a hybrid, and she doesn't even plug in her car.
Right.
And she has to pay $500 annually for her registration.
It's wild, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of those energy conversion vehicles that takes your gas and uses your gas really as a generator to the battery, right? So it really extends the range of that gas. Yeah. But like she's saying, it's a hybrid, and they still give her a full tax. So you factor that in. You also factor
for the charging stations that are being built.
Yep.
The monorail. And I'm like, what am I paying for the monorail for? Like,
why not? I don't even use it.
Exactly.
What the heck? Right.
I have not used the monorail since I've been out here.
So we're like paying for the luxury of saving the planet, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of people want to see a benefit. And then when you also factor in replacement parts and the technology, you can't just go down to your average Joe Schmo car repair guy, right? You have to go to the dealer, and they're going to give you dealer pricing, right? Whereas a fuel car, you can go down to Joe Schmo, and like we just went to go look at some tires, and like the guy was going to cut us a nice deal, right? To pay cash, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying his name. So, but he can do that. Why? Because he can work on a carbon-based car. He can work on a fuel car, right? Mm-hmm. And no one's the wiser. So it's really kind of cool that both plans, I would say, we're both kind of in the middle. If you want to keep your gas, keep your gas. If you want to keep your hybrid, keep your hybrid or your electric. But it's a real stickler if you don't fix the things with the electric, and you want to make people go to electric. Really hard to sell that. So I think that's it. What do you think, Q?
I think we covered most of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys get a very balanced approach. Like I said, you guys by all means do your research. Not all the facts we put in this video are like on the button, on the dot, but we kind of get the gist of what they're proposing and how we think it'll affect you, how it'll affect us.
What we're gonna do moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll keep in our car. We're not gonna try to go get a brand new car.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not trying to buy a whole house. Like, no, they can keep the $25,000 unless we're trying to make it an asset.
That's exactly right. One thing I want to throw in there too is if they decide to do price controls, right? And this has kind of been the thing that I wasn't sure if I wanted to put in the video because we weren't sure if they were actually going to do this. But if you're talking about putting price controls, and this is something that's being proposed by Kamala, if you want to do price controls, let's say at the grocery stores, I think that is a absolute horrible idea. Not because I want prices to keep rising. It's in the past, we can look at FDR. He did price controls, and Nixon did price controls, and also throughout history. Typically, price controls don't work for a number of reasons. So that's, I guess, that's the.
What happened?
Yeah, we could do that in another video, why we believe price controls won't work. But I think for that, I'm not saying, I don't know, I
wanted to put that in there because that's one of the things that are like, okay, if this was to happen, we're gonna go into like overdrive. We're working because that means something's coming towards the latter end.
Mm-hmm.
And while I don't know, we're just gonna
not to fearmonger, right? We
right.
to be transparent. If let's say you put price controls in,
Mhm.
right? Essentially, whatever you're putting the price control on gets scarce.
Yeah.
Natural like supply and demand is been affected, so there's going to be inefficiencies in that. But typically, a lot of the historical data that we've been watching, when you start instituting price controls, you're trying to curb inflation, but you essentially make scarcity, which causes more inflation. It's one of those weird
Prices
spirals.
like jump like 100%, and you're
Yeah.
like, what?
What's
Why
going
is bread like $3,000?
Well, I don't know about that, but Fluffy not getting no fluff, man. That's crazy.
It's insane. So,
Yeah. To control, we don't believe that price controls at all control an inflationary narrative. If you're in an inflationary narrative already, price controls most of the time don't help. Price controls do kind of help when you're not in an inflationary narrative. If you're saying people are price gouging, and that's kind of the difference. If it's actually price gouging, then yes, price controls actually make sense. But if you're saying that we are in an inflationary period, like prices are naturally rising, right? For whether it's macroeconomics or there's literally just a supply shortage, then price controls don't make sense at all. They actually hurt the economy. Like, it actually hurts everything. So, and you heard it here first. If they do institute price controls, we will go into what we call overdrive. We will be looking for location arbitrage. We'll be looking for maximizing leverage, maximizing time to work, all of that. Because historically, when you look at where they try to use price controls, most of the time they don't work. The most extreme case was like ancient Rome.
It made it so much worse.
Yeah, it was insane. And I would watch Mike Maloney's breakdown on that if you want to understand why price controls won't work. Mike Maloney. See if
we can
the
tag it in this video. So.
Yeah, it's really good stuff if you want to learn about the history of money and actually get the facts. Mike Maloney's a gold bug, right? Shout out to gold. It's like kind of relative highs. Yay. Super high, right? We understand what kind of is going on. Silvers too. And so, yeah.
That's our video.
That's it, guys. That's all we got, man. So if you like what you've been seeing, like, comment, subscribe. And we love seeing you guys. Love talking about this stuff. Make your decision, man. It's coming up. But this is your boy MC Fire.
And Ice Cube.
And hey, join us again for a new video. Coming at you again soon. Peace.
Shalom.
Bye.